Welcome to the What's Next podcast. On today's episode, Bryan and I sit down with singer-songwriter and producer Mr. Stephen Ryan. We talk about the music industry, mental health, and surviving a pandemic. So if you're ready, buckle up. Let's go.
Hey everybody, welcome to the What's Next podcast, sponsored by Frontline Forward, your complete wellness center, reaching out to the community as a whole, but with a specific focus on helping our first responders, and also 1033 Apparel. Stephanie Spaulding looks after that. We've got her swag on here today, and we've got all her stuff over at Frontline, and check out her social media platforms for the 1033 Apparel. My name is Bryan Stevens, and this is my good friend for now, and co-host Mr. Mike Hectus.
This is going to be going to happen all the time now.
It is now.
For now, you're my friend. Anyway, hey guys, Michael Hectus here. Hey, glad you're part of our podcast. As we say, it's called What's Next because we like to talk about bringing up discussions with people on their stories. And everybody's got a story. Our stories all connect in some way whatsoever around that thing. And it's not about where you were or where you are now, but what's next. And we want to bring you into part of our community, and hopefully we can have some advice, give some advice. There's people that are watching, maybe can reach in and again, maybe it's their story that we're touching on too that they can be part of. But today I want to introduce everybody to my good friend, Bryan's good friend, and somebody we've known for a very long time. Songwriter, musician, just an incredible dude. I mean, he helped us out at Frontline Forward for a while when we first broke ground, and he's got more talents than I know what I can't even think of. Stephen Ryan, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me, guys, and way too many accolades for me. I don't deserve it, but I do appreciate
Take it.
Yeah, take it.
Take it for now.
I don't get it much anywhere else. No.
So welcome to the show. This is going to be a great show. I mean, again, this is probably part one of part 2 and 3 maybe, but because there's so many things going on in your life right now too that we want to touch on. But first, I think the biggest thing is what Bryan and I know you from, and that's your musical background. I mean, we've gone through 2 years of craziness with COVID, and you, first time I met you was in one of the bars, excuse me, and playing some incredible acoustic music in that. And now here we are 2 years later, and we're now opening up again. But let's get right into it. The last 2 years, how's it been, man?
Oh, man. Like for everybody else, it's been quite a struggle. A lot of industries were shut down temporarily or shut down completely. My industries were one of those ones that just completely disappeared off the face of the planet. I know the restaurants were hit hard and things like that. Then they were at least able to open up for takeout and whatnot. And it's like, oh, how do you do takeout for music? And there were a few companies that did some takeout style music where you could order food and then a musician would also show up and play you 2 or 3 tunes.
Really?
When they dropped off your food.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I mean, it got to a point where it's like, is that feasible to do? Because I mean, how much money are you trying to tack onto your $50 Uber Eats order or whatever to have a musician? And then with gas prices and things, to have somebody show up. People were trying to do it though. And then, everything just moved completely online.
Yeah.
Which a lot of us are like that. We got into music to play music, not to be like a social media influencer or something like that. But it gets where you have to run all your own socials and you got to do live stuff and all these other things. So I tried to move my focus after about close to a year into it. I was like, you know what, this ain't gonna work if I just try to wait around for things to go back to some sort of a normal. So I started doing lives every week on Facebook.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then a little while into that, one of my buddies, Cooper Naboris, actually, who I do some other stuff in the music industry with, he was like, you got to do the TikTok thing. I'm like, I don't dance. So, I mean,
no,
I guess that's not for me. But weirdly enough, I got into that community and started growing a fan base there, because what I realized with new social media platforms is you don't have to do what the trend is or what people are doing. Just do your thing and your audience will find you.
Right, exactly.
So if you're out there playing music, I just did that. I just posted videos of me playing music. I didn't worry about trends, worry about that, whatever. And maybe it was slow, but then it started picking up, because whatever it is you do, if you're a motivational speaker, if you're some sort of culinary expert, whatever, don't dismiss things just because, oh, well, you know what, people on Twitter, they're talking about politics, and people on TikTok, they're dancing, and people on Facebook are sharing memes or whatever. That's fine if that's what the majority of people are doing, but there is a subset of people that are looking for exactly what you're delivering. So just go on whatever the platform is and do your thing. And be yourself. Yeah, be present. And don't worry at all about following the trends or whatever. So I started following. I grew a following on TikTok. I think about 27,000 followers on TikTok now, which isn't crazy for that platform. That's a platform where there's people with a lot of followers. But then I was able to transition that over to my Facebook, and I've grown my Facebook now to, I think we're at 47,000 followers on the Facebook page, and just slowly growing that online base, and hopefully that will translate, because as we know, not just with the pandemic, but before the pandemic, CDs basically disappeared off the face of the planet, at least in North America. So different ways for artists to monetize their art were just dwindling.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to chat to you about, because I watched you, the Facebook thing you were doing live. It was every Monday, I think, was it not?
Yeah, well, so I started with every Thursday doing covers.
Okay, that's
right. And then because I was like, oh, you know what, entertain some people, whatever. Then it went on a long time. I was like, you know what, I'm not trying to be known for covers. I was just doing that to raise people's spirits at first. And I was like, I switched it over to an every Monday night, and I was doing only original music.
Right on.
But yeah.
Yeah, and that was really cool listening to original music. We had a great following. Everybody's on there commenting, and then you also had the little buy a cup of coffee thing going on.
Yeah.
And again, this is what I want to talk about, because before, I mean, we'd go to concerts and we'd be in the crowd watching, or we'd be in the bars watching, everything else, and you guys were doing what you do best, and we absolutely loved it, followed you around. And now all of a sudden, no, we got to watch you online, and that's all there is. And it's really difficult. I mean, to engage with other people around you. So I don't know how you did it, man. And it's crazy.
It's weird sometimes, especially like you guys know, doing this podcast, we're sitting here in a room talking to no one, but talking to everybody that tuned in at the same time.
Good point. Yeah.
And it's a very weird thing. And now imagine you're just by yourself and you have to pretend you're talking to people, and there's no one around. At least we can feed off each other. We have a conversation going. But yeah, there were weird times where I'm sitting there and you get these intrusive thoughts of like, what am I even doing? Is there even people on the other end of this? What's happening right now? Right. Does it even matter if I just stand up and walk away? But because it's just such a disconnect between an empty room with a phone and the fact that sometimes there was 100 people on the other side, or 200 people, or since it was uploaded, they could watch it after the fact. Sometimes you'd have 10,000 people, 13,000 people that have seen alive, that you were sitting there feeling like you're talking to no one.
Wow. Now, when you play live, you play in your bare feet.
I do.
So when you're in here, were you in your bare feet?
I was in my bare feet most of the time. Now, sometimes, because it was the winter in some of this, and bare feet on cold floor, because in the studio here, there's no basement or anything, so that the floor can get a little bit chilly. But yeah, I'm almost always in my bare feet. If I can do the no socks, no shoes, I will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wonder, for all these people, like you said, excuse me, that are now going back to work.
Yep.
So they've been in this area for the last 2.5 years of their life there, where they get onto the board meetings and the big meetings, and they're sitting there behind the table, and they got their dress shirt on, they got no pants on, and they got no socks or shoes on, and they're going to the meeting. Now they got to go back to that and going, wow.
I got to wear pants today.
Walk in with no pants on.
I know all too well how that feels. Actually, when you guys showed up today, I was in sweatpants and a dirty shirt, because unless somebody has to see me, I'm not taking these sweatpants off.
But elaborate on that, Bryan. You said you always play in your bare feet. People go, why is he playing his bare feet? And it's you've probably told it a million times. So for you, it's really, you're going to ask me that again? But why do you play in your bare feet?
I always say there are two answers to that. One is a more PG version, and the other
this one doesn't matter.
It's okay. Well, I usually tell them both, because I mean, I tell the PG one first, and then people can cover their children's ears for the second one, or tell them to leave the room. It's not that bad. But first off, the one of the original reasons I started doing it was I started playing music in bars and stuff. I was very young. I was 15, turning 16, and just an anxiety thing, a comfortability thing. If I had my shoes and socks off, and I had my own carpet that I always bring everywhere, and I close my eyes, I might as well be at home.
Yeah,
I can be comfortable. It's also nice, like the vibration travels through your feet a lot. Nicer, you can connect with the music when you can really feel it. it's a completely different thing. And that's also why live music is so much different than over a phone or whatever, because the sheer volume and vibration of live music does something different to you when you're there. So that would be answer number one. And then answer number two would be, I've always said, playing music is kind of like making love, and you wouldn't make love with your shoes and socks on. You can do other things with your shoes and socks on, but when it comes down to strictly making love, that's a no shoes, no socks.
So you're making love to your guitar. I love it.
No shoes, no socks, no service.
Exactly.
Absolutely love it. Well, I wanted to chat too, because as we said, one of my release points is, when I'm driving around and when their anxiety kicks in, whatever, is I love music. Like, music is my go-to, and it brings me back, and it grounds me. It brings calmness to me, depending on what I want to listen to that day. But you had mentioned, you're a singer-songwriter, and a lot of the songs you've written are about your life and the things around your life and the things that mean so much to you. So let's talk about songwriting.
Yeah. So for me, a lot of songs, I want to write something that somebody's going to listen and say, oh my God, there's somebody else going through the same experience I'm going through. I thought I was alone, because I had so many albums and so many songs growing up that I would think I'm the only person on the planet that's ever felt this way. Especially in your teenage years, you think nobody's been through what I've been through. And nobody understands how I feel. And it's and there's nothing wrong with that, because you just don't have the life experience to have more perspective. But then I would hear songs that I go like, wait a second, that's exactly what I'm going through. So at least there's one other person that's gone through this, and then you get a connection with that person or that person's music. And then that's always been something I sit there and I go, I need to write those songs about the experiences I feel I haven't heard, because then somebody else going through that same thing, if they find my song, they'll know, oh my God, I'm not the only person going through this. Somebody else has gone through this. So a lot of my songs, whether they're sad, whether they're motivational, whether they're about love or they're happy, they're funny, I think it's always important to see that you're not alone in something.
Absolutely.
Because even weirdly enough, now think about it, even with the happy songs, if you've ever been happy by yourself, it's not always the best feeling. You want to share that with people. And
that's good.
If and a lot of people, when you're teenagers and maybe you don't have friends, or you're not as open with your friends, or you can't always see your friends, then you have that music or that something to bounce that feeling off of. But yeah, so it's just my big thing. I try to focus a lot on writing about mental health, because whether personally or through personal associations, mental health has just been a driving factor in a lot of things that have gone on in my life. And I just felt like everyone would always tell me, oh, if you need anybody, let me know. Or just, if you're feeling down, reach out to somebody, talk to this person, use this website, use this service. And those are all amazing things, and they need to be there for when people are ready to take that step. But I almost never found myself ready to take the step to actually go to somebody. Whereas music, I would turn it on because I just wanted to listen to it, and then it would force its way in. And then maybe that music or that message is something that triggers me and brings me over the edge, and I do say, you know what, I do need to talk to somebody or whatever. And yeah, the thing that we were talking before the podcast, and I had said, everyone always tells you reach out. And some people, since they aren't ready or aren't able to reach out, music can reach in. So I just think that's a really important thing to have.
Yeah, that's cool. Bryan, I wanted to bring you in on this because there's when I first introduced you to Stephen, it was he came down to Frontline Forward, and we were working with the Stand Strong, the mental health community that we built for teens, and Bryan and Ryan came down there to see us, or Stephen. I always go and call
Ryan, Stephen, Ryan.
Yeah, we could write a song. But I had brought him down, and he'd spent some time working with you at Frontline Forward, doing some repairs. So you're like a multitasking guy, like you got so many abilities. But Bryan, it was kind of cool because you'd learned a lot about Stephen that I didn't know about.
Yeah, we it was a pretty special time.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, we had just got introduced to each other, and obviously been out to see you play a couple of times as well, and then I laid the floor down in the studio, and you being the person you are, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but you came along and you go, who put this floor down? And I went, why? And you went, well, he's not very good at what he does. And I went, well, it was me. And that's when you say, so like we ripped up most of the floor that I had put down, and and we tackled it again, and we just had a lot of pretty deep conversations, long conversations that went on over the course of that time. So it was pretty special for me to be able to connect with you with that. But
100%, it was. I remember it fun. I wish I was closer to the gym.
Yeah,
because if I was closer to the gym, you probably would have been stuck with me.
Just adopted Steven.
But yeah, no, it was. I would hope I said it as gently as possible.
No, you put it in a really good way.
And you know what? This can be one of my problems is I'll see something. If there's an opportunity where I can help, that's almost always my intention is just to give the help. And sometimes I overcommit like we all do. But yeah, I had noticed the floor, and you told me, I think it was a lady maybe cut her. She didn't cut herself, but her pants or something ripped. Yeah. And I said, oh, well, with this flooring, like because it's a laminate vinyl plank, sorry.
Right.
And when it's together properly, there's zero seams, basically.
Right.
And I was like, well, maybe
and I had seams everywhere.
But yeah, I'm definitely not any type of expert, but I am one of those people that if somebody needs help, I'm always there to try and help my friends in situations like that. And I've always been this weird person where I just wanted always to be able to do whatever it is myself. And I thought it was a great thing. I realized later in life it's a major flaw to think you should be able to do everything, and you should be able to do everything to a level in which a professional would. But and I think it's also I've been in my life in a lot of situations, whether they were with contract situations or otherwise, that I sat down after the fact and went, okay, this didn't go the way it was supposed to, but at the end of the day, this is my life, and I felt I over trusted some people sometimes, and what it comes down to is I am the only person that has to live with the outcome. Yeah, they can go find another me or another not me and do this again or whatever. But for me, I started going, you know what? If it comes to me and something I'm releasing or something that is specifically me, I'm not gonna let anybody budge me on my vision and what I want to do. And actually, with the last album, funny enough, we're in my studio right now, and I recorded the entire album myself in this studio. Played all the instruments, all that, and that's not to say, oh, like I'm so good. I had such an issue with trusting anybody else on the process, and also, not even that. There's also a degree of when somebody was doing something on other projects I had in the past. If it was something I didn't like, I didn't feel comfortable saying, "Hey, like that's great, but what I want is something different." Yeah. And I couldn't communicate that, and I just say, "Yeah, oh, that's great," and then I'd have something that didn't feel authentic to me. So what I wanted to do with this album was just put all those factors aside and say, what do I come out with if it's all on my shoulders?
Yeah.
And because it is nice to know if it came down to it, I can do this.
Yeah.
Because you will have people that you thought were going to be in your life forever that just end up not being a part of your life. And now I at least have that confidence in knowing, even if I develop a team and a group of people for this next project and it's 100% collaborative and almost like none of it is done by me, then at least I know, well, if that team falls apart, I'm not left with nothing.
Exactly.
I have this blueprint to fall back on.
But it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I hear this from you, and I'm much the same way, that I want to help everybody.
Yeah.
I truly do, and And I just have that, whatever you want to call it, that attraction where people feel that they can come and talk.
Yeah.
And then I immerse myself in that. And then I just go, like, I just keep going until I guess I'm satisfied that I've helped them or they've gotten the help that they need.
Yeah.
So that, I guess that's a commendable thing. I hope it is.
It definitely, but I think it's one of those things personally that you need to understand when to draw that line for your own mental health.
Exactly.
And hopefully you've managed know how to manage expectations from the get-go so that somebody knows, hey, I'm helping you out because I'm able to help you out right now.
Right.
And I would love to help you out to the extent that I can and up until the time where I can and when I can. And have that up front that way when it comes to, hey, man, I don't have more time in my life to continue doing this. Hopefully I've left you at a point where you can continue from there, but I'm not able to devote more time to this or whatever. But we, again, when it comes to friendships and things like that, we never think we have to manage expectations up front.
No.
Oh, this is my friend. What could go wrong? So even when we all got together to talk about this podcast, and luckily we're all of that exact same mindset of, hey, you know what? Things work sometimes, things don't. And let's just be upfront with this.
Yeah.
Let's have fun with this. And it works till it works.
Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully it works forever. Mm-hmm. But I mean, let's all make sure that we're able to enjoy the process and pivot if and when we were ever to have to.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and you know what? Just right along with it, I wrote down on the page here trust.
Yeah.
And that's where we open ourselves up. Because we open ourselves up in wanting to help people with the best of intentions. And then we just sort of start to trust things and people too much. Not that we shouldn't, but let's just be honest. There's just when things are bad or people are there with not the right or good intentions, you can get yourself into some trouble.
Yeah, well, sorry, I want to jump on that with trust, especially. I mean, and today we've been locked up for 2 years. So you look at trust and social media and how it's opened up all those issues. I mean, people talking behind other people's backs and everything else, and judgment and the people that you trust. And that's where I wanted to touch base on that. Here you've been 2 years in your own studio. You don't have to trust anybody else. It's just yourself. But how does that pay? Like we want to talk about the different things we've gone through mentally, and you're by yourself.
Yeah, it's and then how hard is it now to climb that mountain back up to let people back in because you have to at some point. There's no possible way to get through life continuing on the way that I was when I was locking myself away and just doing things. I'll be the first to admit, and my wife would probably tell you, my friends would probably tell you, I would wake up and or be into a day and I would have anxiety, and the easiest thing for me to do would be able to say, well, I got to go work on something in the studio. And then now I have this space where I know I can sit down, even if I'm working on stuff, I can breathe. I started getting this anxiety around being around other people in general. And it was, and the weird thing was, it wasn't anxiety towards like what they were bringing to the situation. It was partly my comfortability, but also like, I get this weird thing where I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to subject you to being around me.
Right.
It's this weird thing where
it's like
they think you're pulling away because something they've done, but you have this weird self-hate or whatever it is that you're like, I don't want you to have to be around me because I don't like who I am.
Right. So it's that whole isolation thing.
Yeah. And then what's the easiest thing to do? Just keep isolating, because then the more you isolate, the less you have to deal with that.
Exactly.
That's one of the reasons I reached out to Bryan, and people have been poking and prodding the two of us to do this show again after, before COVID, we were working on that. And that was the biggest thing during COVID. I actually, as an extrovert, I struggled with how to even start a conversation with people because by myself. And that's where I pushed myself through the wall when Bryan said he wanted to get this going. And I said, I have to. I got to get out, because I'm, as an extrovert that I was before, like I said, I was out there. I was that guy.
Yep.
And I struggled big time the last 2 years, just like I say, starting a conversation. So this is good for me. This is healing for me, being able to sit and do. But for you, as you said, you put it into your songwriting. I couldn't write a song to save my ass. I'm actually probably worse at writing songs than singing, because you've heard me sing. I'm pretty good.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's good. I love the silence. But no, it's so writing songs. I mean, you're brilliant.
See how Stephen didn't comment there with about your singing? He
Like I said, when it's silent, it's time to listen. So listen, I want some feedback. Can I not sing? No. Shit. All right, stop it.
No. Anyone can
talk
sing.
about anyone can sing. Exactly. In the shower is really good. But no, let's talk about songwriting. I mean, it's an art, man.
Yeah, I mean, for me, songwriting is a super weird thing for me because I feel like a lot of people, in that I don't feel I write the songs, and this isn't me getting all woo woo.
No, but that's stuff, very cool.
But I do feel like songs are out there in the ether or whatever you want to call it, passing by, and if you're in a place where you can tap into that, you can pull one out of the sky at that moment. And if you miss that one, it doesn't mean you won't write a song that day, but you might pull down a different song. Mm-hmm. Or if you write part of it one day, part of another day, it's always going to be something different. And I just feel like it's passing by. And that's why you hear people talk about these songs that, I wrote it in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's because if you're completely tuned in to what it is, and maybe it's not something, it's flying through the ether. Maybe you're just so tapped into your own emotions or the situation that you're writing about that it just flows onto paper, and there was nothing you could do to stop it. It was going to come out whether you like it or not. And I've had a lot of those, especially in the last little while, because actually in the last year, I couldn't even... Sadly, at this point, I've lost track of the amount of people we've lost in our family and our friends. My mother lost both of her parents last year within a couple months of each other, and we lost some close family friends. We've lost some other family members. It has been quite. That's the saddest part of a big family. Yeah. My dad's side of the family is a very big family and. Extended family, one of those families where we'll have someone will pass away and my uncle passed away, and my parents, just so you know, that's not actually your uncle. That's just a guy we called your uncle forever because he's this person's cousin, and it's much easier than saying a fourth cousin on your mom's side or whatever. Yeah.
Big families are like that.
Big families are like, and it's sad. We've experienced a lot of loss, and I've written about that a lot. And that, for me, those are sometimes the easiest thing to write about because you're feeling it so strongly in the moment, and writing about loss always helps me through it. That's
what I was going to ask. Yeah, does that, when you write that, does it help you get through all that? Yeah.
And at least the first couple times you play the song, you can't get through it with dry eyes. There's no, the lyrics you write, I always find when I'm writing about loss, the first song I ever truly wrote about loss was my good friend Quentin Carter, who's actually plays drums in my band, and the first musician I ever played with. I started singing in his basement when I was 5 years old. His dad would play the keys or the guitar or the bass. His dad was an amazing multi-instrumentalist. Quentin would play the drums. Sometimes he played guitar. My other sibling would come down and play bass. And then I was like, I don't play an instrument. And so Quentin's dad was like, you just sing. There's the mic, just sing. Way. And that's kind of how I started singing, is I would go to Quentin's basement and they would play and I would sing because I didn't know how to play an instrument. Now, that didn't develop into something till much later in life, but then quite a few years back now, sadly, Quentin's father had passed away, and I instantly started writing a song about it, and I wrote that song about what do I feel like Jeff, his father, would say now. And you try to figure out those words without being disrespectful to the situation, and that's what you tap into. And so that was the first song I ever wrote about loss. And then that's kind of the same approach I've always taken, is I wait for the person to speak to me. And again, I'm not saying it's the person that's actually speaking to me necessarily, but what I am saying is that we all have, in the absence of someone, this beautiful afterglow of the person we knew them as, which is great because all the other stuff doesn't matter at that point. But there's this amazing, beautiful picture of what this person was, And my perception of that is what's feeding the story and the words to me. And then it's just amazing because you can get this closure of you didn't get to have that last conversation with them. Mm-hmm. And now here I am able to play that conversation out and then relay that conversation to other people. And it's been writing is my therapy. But I've said this before and sorry to cut you off there. But
no,
there's 2 steps to the therapy though. The writing is admitting it to yourself or knowing how you feel about something, but releasing it or playing it live is actually saying it out loud or like saying it to your therapist and like just letting it out in the world. So if there's anything behind that message, it would be if you've admitted something to yourself, that's only the first step. And that is the first step, and that's a great step to take.
We talk about that with our therapy all the time. Yeah.
Just admitting it to yourself is not going to get you across that finish line. You need to then be able to talk to other people. And maybe the first step is admitting it to yourself. And if you can't bring it to other people, maybe it's finding those songs or those art forms. Maybe it's movies, TV shows, whatever that can help you deal with that emotion or that thing you've then just admitted to yourself. And then that gets you ready maybe to bring it towards somebody else. Wow. I don't know.
But have you always had like the God-given gift of being able to sing?
I would not call it a God-given gift, and some would call it. I don't
know. People should.
I was not good at singing. And everyone was like, "Oh, you're." I could show you old recordings that would make your hair curl. The first time I ever realized I didn't want to sing was I had been singing in my buddy Quentin's basement for a while, and then in grade, I believe it was grade 6, maybe it was grade 3. I can't remember. I'm getting old. I entered a talent show. I believe it had to have been grade 6. And I sang a song, and I had a friend say to me after they were. Did I tell you the story before?
Yeah, that's great.
They were embarrassed to be my friend,
right?
Because I was so bad. Yeah, and it was so bad. I was in 6th grade. Back then, I thought I was a man in the 6th grade, but that tore into me deeper than this person has probably long forgotten saying.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it probably didn't mean anything.
No.
But a 6th grader doesn't have a filter the same way a 90-year-old doesn't have a filter. But that stuck with me so hard. I changed schools the next year. Yeah. Now, it was partly, your bus route's going to be different, blah, 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 whatever. And I was just like, no, I'm fine to change schools.
Yeah,
so I changed schools. And I was like, I'm not going to sing anymore. Singing is not for me. I'm not a good singer. The only place I would sing would be alone, like in my bedroom or something like that. I was done with singing in public. And then in grade 9, my sister was in musicals and stuff like that. She'd been in the musical the year before. She's a couple years older than me. And then she was my ride home. So I had to stay at these musical practices. So they always need guys.
Yep.
So they're like, you're just like, you don't even have to really audition. It's just, you're in. Right. You're part of it. Can you just go stand up there and move your mouth and everyone else is singing type thing. And then I would get comfortable and I sing more and more. And then they had a guy had to leave the production for whatever reason. And they were like, oh, well, we need to refill these spots. And there's these 2 songs that this person will have to sing solo. And I was in grade 9, and they just had the person, Rita is her name. Yeah. I'm friends with her to this day. She was doing the vocal arranging and stuff for the musical. And she walked by and she said to the teacher, Don Losi, again, another good friend still, that kid can sing. And they're like, are you sure? He's like, yeah. So
grade 6 he couldn't, but he can now.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I don't even know if it was necessarily that great then, but she saw a potential.
Yes.
And so she was like, you're going to have these 2 solo songs.
Yep.
And so I kept working at it, whatever. And even then, like, even you look back to that, and I have recordings of those times, I was not good. I was not good, but it felt so good to sing.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was letting go.
And I never felt anything better than just, whether you're closing your eyes or whatever, or you're just into it and singing. So I was like, I just want to continue doing this. So I just kept doing it until I apparently got better. And I always say, people say, oh, you're so good. Well, I said, I'm not good at singing. What I'm good at is emoting. What people respond to is emotion. What you think Adele is the most popular artist of our age, my age at least, just because she's a good singer?
Yeah.
No, the emotion you hear that comes across in her voice and her performances,
absolutely,
transcends technology to the point where you don't have to be live. You can feel that emotion just listen to it on your phone or in your car speakers or whatever. So I always say singing is 90% emotion at the least, at the most, sorry.
Yeah.
Then 5% singing talent and at least another 5% confidence. There's some confidence, and if all you got is the emotion and the confidence, you're 95% of the way there.
Yeah.
The singing will take care of itself, I guess.
Well, people should do themselves a favor. Take a listen to your music, because it's a beautiful thing. You're a talented singer-songwriter.
Where do they find your music?
Yeah, so you can search anywhere, all streaming services, whether that's Apple Music, Spotify, or YouTube, anything like that. Stephen Ryan. My most recent album is called Light of Day. And if we have a couple seconds, maybe I'll talk about
Let's do it.
A song or two, because the opening track is called Human After All, and that is a song about mental health. And it's actually, if you listen closely, feel free to pause this and listen to it first, because some people, once they know what a song's about, can't put it out of their head. And I feel like music should always be whatever it needs to be to the listener. It doesn't have to be what I wrote it about, and it actually shouldn't be. It should be whatever you need it to be. But then afterwards, if you listen back, most of the song is about suicide.
Wow.
Because I've had in my life some close calls and some people in our life that we've lost to suicide. And that first verse is all a metaphor for drowning in your own mental health, essentially. The lines are, I've been treading water, haven't seen the shore in months now, all that. And then the point where somebody commits to that is, close my eyes, steady my feet now as the water fills my lungs, which is like, you give up and you stop swimming. Because sometimes when you're in that sea of mental health and you can't see the shore and you feel like nobody's coming, you're paddling along, and then eventually you stop with your hands, or you're kicking your feet a little, whatever, and eventually what happens is some of these people, it's just too much and they can't swim anymore. And the way I like to look at that as well is kind of, you don't know how long that person's been swimming there for.
You have no idea.
Right? It might have been more clear to you in the last couple of weeks or whatever, but that person could have been treading water for 10 years, for 15 years, 20 years. And we just can't do that. So that song, for me, is about that. And maybe when you listen to it, you'll hear that in it as well. And then in the chorus, I've had some issues in the recent years with whether if it's my wife has had some chronic pain issues and things like that, and some chronic illness issues, and getting help through our healthcare system is not easy.
No.
For people with chronic illnesses or people with mental health. We are trying very hard, and it's not at the fault of the caregivers, whether that's the doctors, the nurses, the therapists, things like that. There is the system in place just doesn't, I don't think, allows for people to do all they can for people always, because there are steps to this process that you have to follow.
Policies and procedures.
But anyway, there's a line in the chorus before we wrap it up that says, I know I'm sick in the head, but the doctors have all gone. I'm only human after all, which is the last line of the chorus. And that's how it feels to a lot of these people. And even people get scared. They don't want to go back to the hospital because they feel like they never get help there or these things. And it was just it was a scary couple months and couple years dealing with these type of things, and we're still going through it now. But I don't know. I'm off on a little bit of a tangent. Sometimes
no, not
I get
at all.
lost
This
in
is
it.
great.
But yeah, so that song's with that. And then I would say to wrap it up, the last song is called I Would Be Me, and that was the single we released with the album. And that's a little bit more of an uplifting, like, hey, if you lose everything and nothing goes right at the end of the day, I would be me. You would still be you. And if you can find solace in that and find a way to love yourself and be okay with yourself, no matter what happens, if everything goes amazing and I become a famous rock star and I win the lottery or this happens, that happens, I'm still going to be that same person. Or if it all goes to crap, I'm still going to be that person. And if you can find some sort of solace in that or some sort of hope or comfort in that, it doesn't matter what happens.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's
Beautiful.
So good. That leads us into episode 2. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've opened up a door for us, everybody. That's so good.
Yeah.
beautiful.
You know, Steve, I've had, and my wife Angie have had the pleasure of going out to see you play live. Do yourselves a favor. I'm not just saying this. Do yourselves a favor. Find out where Steven's playing. Do yourself a favor. Go out for the night. Take your special other person with you, and go out and have some drinks, have some food, and listen to some pretty cool music.
Thank
and
I'll quick throw a plug in. May 7th, be ready in Paris.
Oh, yeah, May
7th,
7th.
Paris, Ontario at...
That's at the Presbyterian Church.
Church.
Hopefully this episode is out for those people to hear that.
If not, you missed it. It was amazing.
Oh my goodness.
The place
so
was
great.
jammed. Brian and I were body surfing. It was crazy. Hopefully it'll be up before that. If not, we're looking forward to that one. So,
All right.
I'm glad to see you live again.
we're going to wrap this thing up. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, buddy.
And,
Truly appreciate it. As we said, we're here to tell stories and stories that connect us all together. And where we were to where we are. And again, we finish with what's next.
What's next?
Have yourself a great day.
Yeah.
Take
Okay,
care.
guys.
Peace. We're out of here.